think I'd like to weigh in at this point because, you know, one of the things that was just emphasized was the absence of major crimes here. And I think the chief was very clear that from the perspective of the public safety, the camera in Linton Park was not likely to be addressing a lot of the major crime issues. I believe he talked about quality of life issues being the significant ones, kind of like the condoms and the needles and the empty bottles and the pornography that's written on the tables and the children that are intimidated by others. I mean, I have a daughter who's 14 years old that tells me that she's afraid to walk to CVS because of the kids congregating. Now, cameras are not the only thing that addresses this. But the chief has a comprehensive proposal over here to address the overall public safety and the quality of life issue that he talked about. He didn't bring these up because it's going to solve a rape, Mike, or a theft, or a murder. He did talk about the bullying. He did talk about the possibility of dealing with juvenile mischief and being able to respond and deal with the issues as they come up in the park. Yeah, I think that it's been expressed, and I see a number. I see, 30, I guess, the number of people that have expressed interest, neighbors themselves, neighboring properties to the park, saying that they're afraid of things like vandalism on their own property, or I understand, and that they're in favor of having surveillance cameras in the park. But it's not one where we're talking about a prevention or catching of these major crimes that you cite, because you're absolutely right. We don't have those major crimes, but we do have situations where the residents feel less comfortable, and the children may not feel so safe. Now, if what I'm hearing from you is that you don't care if our children feel safe or our families feel comfortable, well, then that's a different story. But the chief has put together a plan, one item of which is to have surveillance cameras so that an officer, being on the other side of town, if called, could respond to something over here. I think it's a valid and a reasonable expense for $3,500.
And Mark, I have to say you're right about the serious crime stuff, but it makes a point about the nature of our town, and I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as a starting point. But let's go to quality of life issues and use the Chief's own statistics as reported and see what they tell us. They tell us that year to date in Newtown Borough there have been 8 incidents of vandalism reported. Curfew violations, 2. Juvenile complaints, 13. And that's all I can see in any of the statistics to date this year. So quality of life issues, I guess, are in the eye of the beholder. Statistics are statistics. Now, I keep hearing about condoms in the park. I keep hearing about needles, always anecdotal. I hear some people who are very upset about the bullying, and bullying is a problem. But to Gerard's point a little while ago, the chief's proposal does in fact address a lot of those without doing cameras. And again, I keep returning to the question of A, what is the need, and B, what is it that we will do to address that need? And when I look at statistics, I don't see the kinds of things being reported which would justify investments of money. And in fact, the things that need to be done are the things that are ones of community. In the discussion we had on November 17th, there was talk about this whole idea that cameras would somehow make us safer, and this is in fact something I gave our mayor in terms of a publication, 3 myths of public video surveillance. The number 1 myth was surveillance cameras make us safer. That's the number 1 myth. But what struck me about the analysis of these different studies was one of the prime reasons why you don't do it, and that is cameras do not establish relationships. And that's what we're talking about ultimately when we're talking about quality of life issues. We're talking about relationships. We're talking about identifying who's doing what in that park and trying to deal with it. And to the extent we can on a relationship basis within the community, we have the lights, we have increased foot patrols, we have increased police patrols in vehicles. We have people who can use a cell phone. Every kid, it seems, above the age of 7 or 8 now has a cell phone. If properly instructed, directed, educated by their parents, by their teachers, to use that when they have a concern, to use that when they have a suspicion, and for us to do the same, I can't think of a more technologically good thing to do than to just call the police. So it's those things which involve our own actions within a community that seem to address the quality of life issues, and a camera doesn't. And good Lord, it certainly is clear that the philosophical differences on public surveillance of a park are enough to make us want to avoid making this decision unless we absolutely have no alternative. And we do have alternatives. The other things the Chief has proposed in the same paperwork are good, are ones that everyone here endorses. No one disagrees. So I leave with Gerard's final point, and that is, why not do the others? Leave aside the camera that's been so divisive, and let's see how things go. Leave to the next council to get 8 or 10 months into the new year when the weather is warm and the problems in the park will probably be at their greatest, and see what that does. And revisit it if we need to, but not do it now.
If I may, just one statistic. The cost for cleaning up the vandalism in the park for the last 2 years, I believe, is $2,400. That's what we spent to take care of replacing tabletops or sanding them or whatever. That is from Pat. That's what we paid for the last 2 years. So there is some cost.